Welcome back to another episode of our podcast, where we explore ideas shaping the future of work and the empowering relationship between people and organizations. Today, topic bring us into a conversation that blend human resources strategy with environmental awareness. Something many companies are gradually paying closer attention to.
Yes, and what makes this episode especially engaging is that we are not only talking about manufacturing or heavy industry, which are often linked to ecological matter. Instead, we are going to look at how service-based sector respond to environmental expectation and how they shape new norms inside the workplace through green human resource management.
To get us through this idea, we're joined by our guest, Ms. Aulia Darmawan, who has observed how GHRM is applied in various organizations, including financial institutions. One example, discussion today is Bank Mandiri, which has adopted various environmentally conscious practice, something that may surprise some listener, considering banking is usually the first sector that comes to mind when thinking about ecological initiative.
Exactly. So whether you are a business leader, an HR professional, or simply someone who wonder how environmental ideas travel into unexpected industry, this conversation will offer a lot to think about. Let's jump in.
Before we dive deeper, could you walk us through how green human resources management come into the spotlight within industry that are usually not associated with environmental matters such as baking? I find in inquiring that service-based companies feel compelled to integrate ecological thinking into their people management strategy.
Certainly, green human resource management emerged as a response to rising expectation that all organizations, whether they manufacture physical products or operate entirely in the service sector, should show awareness and how their activities affect the environment, prompting companies to incorporate ecological considerations into daily operations rather than limiting them to external CSR campaign.
The sound promise on the surface, but isn't there a chance that initiative like this become more of a branding strategy rather than a real transformation? Service companies can easily promote green office without altering deeper organizational behavior, leading to what some people describe as inflated ecological claims.
That risk absolutely exists. However, in Mandiri case, several internal programs actually translated into measurable outcomes. They redesigned their office energy systems, created reward schemes linked to sustainable behavior, and even worked with suppliers to reduce waste from printed forms and promotional materials. While public communication does play a role, the company also invested in internal audits to ensure the initiative go beyond surface level statement.
I'm curious about the employee side of it. How do the staff members react when the organization suddenly adopt green frameworks? Are they generally receptive, or does require gradual culture shift effort?
Actually, employees tend to respond well when they understand the reasoning behind the transition. Mandiri used training sessions where environmental concerns were explained in practical and relatable ways. They frame green behavior as something that enhances workplace comfort and personal well-being. Over time, staff participation grew because they could see direct benefits such as healthier workspaces, reduced clutter, and opportunities to engage in volunteer programs.
Even so, once companies start allocation fund to redesign system and train people costs inevitable rise. Would this create pressure on consumers? Some observers argue that green initiatives eventually trigger inflate price, a situation sometimes described as a greenflation.
Yeah, your concern is valid. Some green investments do require additional funding upfront. However, Mandiri managed these transitions by prioritizing resource efficiency rather than expensive technological replacement. For example, they introduced energy monitoring systems and digitalized many procedures to limit paper use, which actually lowered long-term operational expenses. Their approach sought a balance between ecological responsibility and financial feasibility.
That makes sense. Speaking of digitalization, how has moving toward paperless process shape their daily activity with the bank? I imagine the operational impact must be quite extensive.
It actually has been transformative. Paperless loan applications, digital forms, and e-signatures cut down internal processing time while reducing the massive volumes of printed documents banks traditionally rely on. Employees no longer deal with stacks of physical files, which streamlines work. It also reduced waste disposal costs and created smoother coordinations across departments.
But doesn't digitalization introduce new energy demand? Data center and constant online operation draw heavy power loads. A company cloud claimed to reduce physical waste yet increase energy consumption in the process, which introduces a contradiction.
You're right to point out that digital infrastructure consumes energy. Mandiri addressed this by collaborating with service providers that use energy efficient equipment and by optimizing internal servers. They also shift towards shared cloud resources instead of maintaining multiple redundant systems.
How does the bank design grade education so that it's resonance rather than feel force of overly techniques?
The training actually relies on real-life examples instead of abstract rules. Employees learn through case studies, interactive workshops, and practical activities like waste audits. The bank also incorporates environmental topics into leadership development, so managers model sustainable behavior. Making learning relatable helps employees internalize the values naturally.
Still, companies often roll out training programs that look good but don't change daily habits. How doesn't Mandiri make sure the session translate into action rather than become other mandatory module employees forget?
Mandiri integrated green KPIs into performance discussions, but rather than treating them as a rigid targets, managers assess progress through observations and dialogue. Small habits, switching off unused equipment, choosing digital communication, sorting waste become part of routine evaluations. When employees see these habits acknowledged, they are more likely to practice them consistently.
That sounds like a thoughtful approach. Beyond the office environmental, does Mother also involve employment in community-based ecological activity?
Of course, the bank organized 3 planting days, river cleanup, and educational campaign with schools. These programs allow employees to engage with environmental issues outside work, which enhances their sense of contributions. Many participants describe the activities as meaningful bonding experiences that connect them with local communities.
The community programs are admirable, but they sometimes operate more like public photography than long-term commitment. How can we trust that these events aren't just created for social media exposure?
Mandiri attempts to avoid that pitfall by forming partnership with local governments and environmental NGOs. These collaborations require ongoing monitoring and reporting, which reduces the likelihood of symbolic gestures. The bank also repeats many of these activities annually, maintaining a consistent presence rather than sporadic appearances.
It also loves to know whether GHRM influences talent attraction. Do job seekers view environmentally aware company as more appealing?
Absolutely. Many applicants, especially younger professionals, prefer employers who display ecological responsibility. Mandiri highlights its sustainability programs during requirement campaigns and job fairs, showing candidates that the company cares about long-term ecological well-being. This helps attract individuals who resonate with the vision.
While that may be true, could this selective attraction limit diversity? If a company unconsciously favors applications who already adopt eco-friendly lifestyle, it might narrow the applicant pool.
Yeah, that risk exists, but Mandiri mitigates it by evaluating candidates based on skills first, while treating environmental awareness as an orientation topic rather than a prerequisite. The recruitment process focus on competency and green values are introduced during onboarding, so every new employee receives equal exposure.
Earlier, you mentioned internal audit. How do these audits operate? And what kind of insight do they provide for management?
Internal audits review energy usage, waste output, compliance with green guidelines, and the adoption of digital processes. Managers receive detailed feedback illustrating where improvement can be made. These insights help shape future programs such as expanding recycling points or upgrading lighting systems.
However, audit depend on internal reporting, which means company can still shape results to appear favorable. How do we know these assessments are not just to support a preferred narrative?
Mandiri includes external reviewers for certain audit cycles. These third-party evaluators compare with internal data with real conditions, minimizing the possibility of manipulations. Feedback from these reviews is publicly accessible through sustainability reports.
That level of transparency must build trust among stakeholders. Have customers responded in any particular way to the bank environmental direction?
Many customers express appreciation, especially those who value digital convenience. They see that reduced paperwork also means quicker service. Others appreciate knowing that their bank is attempting to reduce its ecological footprint, even though the institution operates in a sector not traditionally associated with the environmental care.
But customers also react strongly when operational costs rise. Even if Mandiri manages resources effectively, could regulation or external expansion push bank toward more expensive green technology, eventually raising service fee?
External pressures may indeed create additional demand. Still, Mandiri focus on gradual transitions rather than sudden large-scale of investment. This helps distribute costs over time. Moreover, many sustainable practices like limiting paper consumption actually reduce expenses rather than increase them.
Before we move to the closing segment, what advice would you offer to other service companies that want to begin implementing GHRM but might feel unsure but where to start?
I recommend beginning with simple steps. Reduce paper usage, monitor energy consumption, over basic green training, and encourage leadership to model eco-friendly habits. Small changes create momentum. Once the foundation is built, companies can expand toward more ambitious cultural and structural transformations.
That was a rich conversation, and it certainly opened up multiple angles on how green initiative interact with real-world organization behavior. We have heard about the progress company like a Bank Mandiri have made, but we also touched on concerns such as the possibility of inflate ecological claim or rising costs when green system are introduction without carefully planning.
Another side, we also explore how employees respond, how training program reshape daily habit, and how organizations discover unexpected advantages when ecological awareness become part of their workplace culture. What stood out is that this transformation don't have to be dramatic from the start. Even small steps can grow into larger shifts that influence both internal operation and external community involvement.
Ms. Aulia, thank you for sharing your observation and giving us such a comprehensive look into how GHRM unfold within service industry. Your insight help us understand how organizations try to balance responsibility, practically, and long-term vision.
To our listener, thank you for joining us. If today's episode spark idea or question, feel free to reach out or share your thought. Stay tuned for more conversation where we unpack evolving landscape of work, people, and organization strategy.
Until next time, take care and continue exploring how your own workplace can grow in a way they benefit both people and the environment.